This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for August 26th, 1:30 p.m. Here's the graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center. We have Hurricane Danielle on the verge of becoming a major hurricane southeast of Bermuda. We have Tropical Storm Earl in the East Atlantic cruising off to the west, and we have a new area of disturbed weather off the coast of Africa that should soon be an invest, and this will later on more than likely become Fiona. And this will also be somewhat of a threat to the western Atlantic basin. And we'll get to the long-term models and the runs and everything coming up here shortly. Now, I want to focus on Danielle because our current feature at Hurricane City is the island of Bermuda. And you can click on the tracking map over Bermuda, and it'll give you all the local radars and the webcams and news and information and weather conditions out of Bermuda. But here's the position of Bermuda using the HurTrack program at its closest approach to Bermuda, which will be on the 29th, which is on Sunday, in the early morning hours at 2 a.m. This will be passing roughly 207 nautical miles east of Bermuda as a strong Category 2 hurricane, and this could be a major hurricane at that time. In fact, I think it will be. And in fact, the GFDL model has this up near Category 4 status at this time, so they should get some gusty northerly winds in Bermuda, but this is good news for Bermuda because yesterday this yellow circle was over the island, and that indicates in the yellow circle are gusts of tropical storm force. Inside the aqua circle are sustained tropical storm force winds, and inside the red circle are sustained hurricane force winds. So luckily this is all staying well to the east of Bermuda, and we'll see the models have shifted east, so this is good news. Now, the history of the position of Hurricane Danielle, where it's at right now, if you go back and look at all the hurricanes, or all the named storms that have been in this exact same position between August 25th and August 27th, we're using about a 3-day window here, is Hurricane Francis, 1976, hung a right-hand turn out here in the Atlantic and headed off into the East Atlantic, did not affect any land. So this is another indicator that all the storms in history that were exactly in this position right around this time of the year, nothing ended up hitting land. So that's good news. Now here are the models on Danielle. And yesterday, a few of the models, including the GFDL and the no-gaps model here, had this affecting Bermuda directly and heading in the general direction of the United States. Well, today they've all shifted and gotten in line with all these other models out here, and it's clearly apparent now that this is not going to be a threat to the United States, and this is going to head out to sea. When you see a tight cluster of models like this, that's a pretty strong indication that they have a good handle on the steering currents out in the Atlantic, and this is not going to hit Bermuda or the United States. Right, here's an animation of Tropical Storm Earl that should be a hurricane right about this point right here on the 28th, which is Saturday morning rather. Earl should become a hurricane, Category 1 hurricane, and then the system will continue to go just north of due west, and eventually it's going to find that weakness left behind by Hurricane Danielle and follow in its tracks. The only difference is that many of the models are indicating this could come a lot closer to Bermuda, if not over Bermuda, going into middle of next week. So we'll have to watch that pretty closely for the island of Bermuda. But early on indications are that this is not going to be a threat to the United States. Fiona, on the other hand, that's a different situation, and we'll get to a water vapor loop in just a minute. Right, all the storms in history that were in the same exact position as Earl is in right now on this date between the August 25th and 27th. We have 4 systems that are in this exact same position. Hurricane Karen in the 90s. We have Gustav in 1996. Neither of them affected land. Back in 1995, though, Hurricane Luis was in this exact same position right around this time of the year, and that ended up slamming the northeastern Leeward Islands here. In fact, St. Martin and got slammed, in Antigua. Areas like that were affected heavily by Hurricane Luis as a Category 3, borderline Category 4 hurricane, and then it recurved in between Bermuda and the U.S. and went out to sea, but it did a lot of damage in the northeastern Leeward Islands. And then in 2003, Hurricane Fabian, the residents of Bermuda are going to remember that when we did the hurricane warning show on Hurricane Fabian. Absolutely devastated, especially the western portions of Bermuda, as this passed over here as a significant hurricane on its way out to sea. But luckily, this is not going to happen with Karen, at least, I mean, not Karen, Earl. At least we're hoping so. But you know what? it's concerning when you see it in the same exact position as Fabian, knowing what Fabian did and what the models are calling for. So this Fabian track is a possibility here. We're going to have to watch this closely. And here are the models on Hurricane Earl, what will be Earl at that time. And again, there's a strong consensus amongst the models that there's going to be a turn here. Of course, it spreads a little bit after the turn is made, but generally leaning towards east of Bermuda at this time. But the Euro model doesn't show that. Euro is showing almost a direct impact on Bermuda. Let's go ahead to the... well, actually, let me show you this. This is the best performing model. Now, we're using tropicalatlantic.com. Chris has the model average errors running on Earl right now, and he's pretty confident that the statistics are coming out pretty well on Earl. And so far, the best performing model on Earl is the AP03 model. This is an aviation ensemble model, and it's clearly showing this passing well to the east of Bermuda. I mean, curving very quickly here. It finds a big weakness out here in the middle of the Atlantic. It doesn't come anywhere near Bermuda. So that is the best performing, the AP03 model. But now here's the Euro model on this, and this is going out 168 hours to Thursday, September 2nd. And look at this right here. That's not Danielle. Danielle's out in the North Atlantic, becoming an extratropical system way up near Greenland somewhere. But this is Earl. And they show Earl... The Euro shows Earl right over the island of Bermuda here on September 2nd. So we'll have to watch this closely. Euro has a very good track record so far this year. And what's this behind Earl? Well, it looks like that could be Fiona finding the weakness left behind by Earl. So there's an obvious trough opened up out here between Bermuda and about 50 west. There's going to be a huge weakness out here that's going to linger for a while. So anything that comes off Africa over the next week or so is going to find that weakness. Now, that's not etched in stone. These sometimes the ridge can build back in up here and send something back towards the west. Once a ridge builds in, you can get systems tracking toward the United States. So we're going to watch for that. But so far, it looks like the weakness is going to remain there. And not only will Earl find its way out, but possibly Fiona. And then there's another big wave coming off Africa that we're going to have to watch, because the door might shut for that one. We'll have to see on that. Now, speaking of the East Atlantic, let's take a look here. Earl is right here on the edge of your picture. This is what will inevitably become Fiona, more than likely. And then we have another system back here and another one coming across Africa. So these all as well will be coming out into the Atlantic and could develop. And these back in here are what concerns me for the United States. So Fiona, looks like the weakness might still be left behind for the recurve out into the Atlantic. All right, let's take a look at the water vapor loop of the Atlantic Basin and see what's going on here. We obviously have Hurricane Danielle southeast of Bermuda. Here is Earl out here. So let's go ahead and illustrate a little what's happening. Looks like an upper low is mingling a little bit with Earl out here, but this is moving off to the southwest, and there's another upper low that did the same thing with Danielle the other day, and that has shifted off to the southwest. So both of these systems will find themselves in a more favorable environment here in about 24 to 36 hours. So Earl is forecast to strengthen, and Danielle is going to continue to strengthen as it moves off to the north-northwest and straddle probably the 60-degree line out here as it curves out into the North Atlantic, and that could very well become a major hurricane, maybe even Category 4. Now, Earl's going to find that same weakness out here. Again, the models, the Euro right over Bermuda, so we have to watch that closely, but most of the models have it curving just east of Bermuda, finding that same weakness. Because of this trough out here. We have a big trough that's coming off the United States, and this is going to move off to the east. And not only is it going to break the ridge down out here, but there's going to be tremendous wind shear out of the southwest north of Bermuda. So anything that gets north of Bermuda is going to get shredded going into next week. And the high pressure out here is going to be probably around 1018, 1019, 1020 millibars, which is not really that strong. You like to see a system, high pressure ridge, maybe 1023, 1024 millibars. That would be strong enough to send systems toward the United States, and we don't have that right now. We have a weak high out here. There's basically no Bermuda high at this time, so there's weakness over here, and the high is back off to the east here. So until that pattern changes, these systems will continue to work out into the open Atlantic. Well, that's it for now. We'll continue to monitor both of these storms and whatever else that comes off the coast of Africa over the next day or two. That's it for now. Again, visit hurricanecity.com for the latest information and models and tracks on these systems. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.